Hello, my name is Calvin Stevens. This is my video cover letter to apply to be a developer with open source ecology. Thank you for the opportunity to do this, and I'm going to just work through the questions you have for me. Can I commit to 10 hours of volunteer time? Yes. And as I'll answer to one of the other questions later about financial commitment, the new job that I'm starting, a ascendance of the job I held last year, in a way, is salaried and only 20 hours per week, and that provides for our family's needs along with my other incomes and my wife's incomes. And one of the first things that I thought of as to how can I fill the other 20 hours per week when I'm not working, one of the first things I thought of was finally I'm in a position where I can make a serious commitment to open source ecology and to be a part of that. Um, my the biggest value that I get out of volunteering is to see the project succeed. Being able to use them, skills I learn on the way, being able to teach others, that's a bonus. That's the icing on the cake. The biggest thing in volunteering to me is just seeing the success that's happened so far and to be a part of the future success. Um, if I stick around to see things long enough to get to full deployment of the full Global Village construction set, that would be amazing. The principles and ideals behind the work of open source ecology I think are so pivotal and vital, and also the partnerships that form between the other organizations that are trying to hit other things that need improvement. Just being a part of something that matters and helping to, you know, slowly drive it forward, that's enough. That's the big thing for me. Um, Next question. Am I willing to learn in Ubuntu Linux the preloaded package? Yes, I'm familiar with that. The OSC Linux and all the preloaded software, the FreeCAD, the Kdenlive, and so on. Yes, I'm not an expert in those, but I'm familiar with them. Some of them I already use right now. I'm using Open Broadcast Studio and Kdenlive for this interview, and in other personal and professional projects. Um, yeah, the rationale behind that is solid, and I actually would like to see more people do something like that, with or without the open source software, just that concept of standard software packages to keep everyone on the same page and with the same issues. So yes, very open to that. Documentation is key. Yes, super yes on that. If the format changes from work logs to something else in the future, I'm open to any format of documentation. Documentation is key. You show me the format you want to use, and I'll use it. And keep records and keep track of things and keep everything manageable. Finances, like I said before, yes, finances are very stable. That's one of the main reasons why I'm reapplying now. And the video instructionals, yes, I'm very willing to learn both getting better at the existing software and also learning more software. So I'm not, a Kdenlive expert, but to whatever level that I need to gain proficiency to be a part of this, absolutely willing to learn that. I'm willing to learn all kinds of new things. So execution and initiative. This is the part where when I've recorded this before, I talk too long. So I'll try to brief it up. Just because it's an online interview doesn't mean I need to spend all day talking to you. Biggest tasks I've accomplished. The design thinking class last year, I taught 8th and ninth graders how to collaboratively and independently problem solve for a real problem, to identify the problem, create a solution, learn material skills to at least get to the prototype level. And that class was not really in a position to take things to a full functioning model, and even more so to a deployed real life solution. but the goal of learning a wide variety of material skills to make the prototype and then evaluate it and then remake your prototype and go through at least 2 or 3 iterations of improvements. That was huge. That was huge for last year, and I don't think we were really equipped or prepared for that at all. I had to learn new material skills. We had the main tool for a sculpture program, but there was no intention of having any sculpture work done. Well, that was one of my pieces to that. Like, if we've already got the main tool, the expensive tool, I will learn how to do sculpture, and I will learn how to teach sculpture to get it into their hands and to make that tool usable and not just collecting dust. The other one is the work I've done at the Children's Museum to take an idea for an exhibit, to wrap both a concept and a theme together and go from idea and design developed into the model to making the actual full-scale, hands-on, interactive exhibit piece is amazing. And I can show lots of specific examples of the work I've done, pictures and 3D models of the work I've done for the museum. The second part of this question is an audacious goal that I've set for myself. My current audacious goal is to make this year's classes at the high school to be something that is successful in every measure that we've set for ourselves and more. It's a crazy year with the COVID response, and there's a lot of concerns that our school won't be able to deliver on the things that really set us apart, like hands-on project-based learning. And I'm really excited for how we hit these crazy challenges when I don't think anyone else can as it is. Just doing normal learning, I think we're in a good position to succeed where everyone else falters. But I want to go beyond that. And how do we get hands-on program if we have to do distance learning? So I'm looking into delivery of materials, providing tool kits for students to own and keep, both to work in my class and to work in other classes. Everything that comes up is like, this can't be done. How on earth can you do this? I'm looking at it like, we're going to do it. We're totally going to do that, and we'll be the only school in 100 miles that's doing it. And I'm so confident of this that I'd actually like to find students from other regions of the state, or even out of state, that cannot come into the building. They're physically too distant, virus or no virus, they're too far away to come to our school. But I'd like them enrolled in my class just to prove a point that I can mail them a toolkit and materials, or something that they could locally get, and even to that end, to do a local pickup and reimbursement program to demonstrate that an online distance class, a collaborative hands-on class, can be done. And again, nobody's even talking about trying to do a class like that within our 3 branches of our franchise. I think we can do it. So that's my big goal. Lot of crazy details in there. A lot of partnerships that do not exist that I want to form with local industries and businesses, and even I met an Amish baker recently. I'd like to try and collaborate with them, with their very particular outlook on appropriate technology, and where the boundaries are, but also what issues they see. What do they see as a struggle, and how to meet them in a way that meets their beliefs and values. There's, a lot of crazy ideas in that. That's the big goal. Something that I learned that revolutionized my life. So this is not, my hands-on or work experience. This is more philosophy, I guess. And I think this is a quote from somewhere, but I cannot remember where it's from, is that the need is great and the workers are few. Most of my experiences outside of employment, such as the Children's Museum, started by just asking, hey, Can I be a part of this? I know how to do this thing. Is that helpful to you? Can I do it? And almost always the answer is yes. Yes, we need people. We need people interested. We need people with skills. There's so many interesting things to be a part of. And sometimes they actually do lead to paid employment. You'll find out there are places that you can be paid to work at and do amazing things that you love and that you believe actually matter and make a difference that the world was never going to tell you about. The world will tell you that, well, maybe the factory's hiring. Maybe they aren't. Maybe you can be a car salesman. Maybe you can't. Maybe we have too many dealerships already. But the things that are actually worth doing, you're probably not exposed to. But there's so many needs out there and so many opportunities that don't exist until you ask. Even my position at the Children's Museum as the exhibit maintenance man, that was not an existing position. When I approached them, I said, I see something is broken. I know how to fix it. If you don't have a guy, I'd love to take a shot at it. And the first couple times were done as a volunteer, and I think the first time they reimbursed me in free museum passes that I gave away to someone, because I already had a membership for my children. I gave them away to a coworker. But eventually that turned into they created a whole new position to fill that role. So that's the big thing that I've learned. There's so much need. Just getting out there and exploring those needs based on your interests or the things that you think matter and value. On hard and soft skills, I have a lot of details of that in the resume. I have a eccentric range of hard skills, from very traditional things like woodworking and metalworking, and machining, electronics, microcontroller programming, mostly the Arduino set, Atmega style development boards, but also a lot of obscure and artistic things like stained glass work or chainmail for Renaissance fairs. I've used all kinds of modeling and graphic design software for vector graphics and logos and font makers and audio-visual recording and editing, and the bulk of my 3D modeling has been done in SketchUp, just because I find it has a very flat learning curve, even though it comes with a lot of limitations, not the least of which how its proprietariness has been getting steadily worse over the last several years. But I have used other modeling programs as well. A little bit of FreeCADs and similar programs. Also some other specific ones like Rhino 3D or Blender. Not very experienced in them, but I've kind of gotten into shallow water with that. Hard skills is all over the map. Manufacturing factories. So I've worked with hydraulics and pneumatics, a lot of both installation and replacement, but also of repair of components, which ties into the soft skills side of things. The most influential factory I've worked at is American Mitsuba. They consider their lowest employees to be the first line of defense of maintenance throughout the building, at least in theory. Well, on my department, especially as I moved up and became an assistant team leader, and then the actual team leader is like a line supervisor in most factories, was to really make that a reality, that I wanted my lowest person, even the temporary employees, to have roles within preventative maintenance and routine repairs. And so the result of that is that there's a very small permanent maintenance staff, and they are stretched very thin. And partly for that reason is all the more reason why I want to develop the capabilities of my team, which meant I had to learn, I had to train, but I also had to train them to train others, to keep that going. It's the only way it works. You have to be able to train someone to train others and keep the loop going. So instead of taking faulty pneumatic components to maintenance and leave it in a huge tub of components that needed repaired, and more often than not, they just sat in the tub and they would buy replacements. Unfortunately, I asked the maintenance men to teach me to do it, and then I taught my subordinates. And so we just had this steady cycle, and became quite good at it. And we could identify components that were beginning to fail or had possible failures, especially with air leaks, were easily detectable. And we could prepare the replacement components, lay out the tools we needed, and prepare for the moment, and actually make it a real process of even my lowest untrained temporary workers could follow this process of replacing pneumatic components in as minimal time as possible, and then once the damaged component is on the bench, teach them to work through the steps of replacing the damaged internals where possible, or salvaging the parts. And we started creating our own stockpile of salvaged parts that were specific to our line, because we were also one of the most broke down lines in the building. We needed every help we could get with that. So there was a lot of soft skills both there and other places in team management, making an agenda, making a training program. One of the things that we're really big on the conflict management side is being able to really keep kind of everyone's eyes on the prize. None of us are coming to the same table because we have opposing goals. We work in the same building. We're working for the same aims. We're part of the same institution or organization. We all know what the reasons for being there are, and we all chose to be there. I've never seen a group where someone was there who really didn't want to be or have any reason to be, and would really, question, like, why would you put someone in a group like that? If they're not a part of it, then don't invite them. Find another role for them. Find one where they do want to be and let them lead that group. So a big part of the conflict management, in my experience, is really helping to keep the eyes on the goal. But also not having to come to the firm, fixed solution. Getting things to, the phrase that I was taught was, it's good enough to try for now, and we'll talk about it later. It doesn't need to be a perfect solution. It needs to be pretty good. Good enough to try. For now, set a time, come back to it. A day, a week, a month. Have a trial period. And then do review it. Too many places, boy, you fought so hard to get something passed, it's done. No one wants to talk about it. Well, that's ridiculous. It's still an issue. So that being able, always allowed to come back to an issue, the most contentious issue, can be revisited and should be revisited to run another loop, try something different, make a change, whatever it needs to be. On would I prefer to do this cover letter or the online interview? I'm flexible. I would do whatever you have found works best for you. But what I love about the video cover letter is it forces the applicant to do a ton of work. You have to get a login to the wiki, make your log page, which I see someone has done for me. Thank you. It had all my recent answers to my interview on there. So formatting was easy. You have to learn the formatting. You have to learn some of the basic MediaWiki formatting. You have to make this video, upload it, embed it. A regular interview, you just sit and talk. Video cover letter is way more intense and shows a willingness to learn the practical skills to be on a development team. So I think the pros really outweigh any cons you could come up with for the video cover letter. Final questions and comments. I'm pretty familiar with the process of becoming a developer from following OSC all over the years, and briefly trying to apply before, a few years ago, before realizing I was way over my head with existing commitments. So I don't have any questions about that. I'm sure there will be more questions if you accept me as a developer and I pass my FreeCAD test. I'm sure there will be questions on how the development team actually functions and what I need to do day to day. But that'll come in time. Immediate questions on the process, no, it's total confidence in whatever the existing process is, and that I can learn it and adapt to it and become part of it. But you did ask, are there any questions that we should have asked? I think it'd be interesting to ask applicants, and maybe this is an interview question or an application question and not an interview question, but to ask them what is a pressing local or global issue that they would like to pursue. Poverty, food deserts, could be anything. Or that you could ask them what tool or product they have in mind to work on. It could be an existing one, part of the Global Village construction set, or it could be something that is, not even on the map right now, but they have a reason for why it should be. And I'll answer that one myself, is to expand on the tools within the Global Village construction set. The existing ones are the tools needed for daily life, yes, and they're also the tools to build the other products. The ecology maps make sense, but I know from trying to set up my personal workshops and the school workshop and other workshops, the expense of starting a nice power tool woodworking shop is thousands of dollars, way too many thousands of dollars. And part of the outcome of OSE products that I saw in one of the videos was to dramatically, by an orders of magnitude, drop the entry bar to getting into a workshop, especially a communal, collaborative workshop. So that would be one of the products that I would be interested in working on, is to take the existing designs such as universal access and universal couplers, and I see you're starting to wind your own motors, and to try and create the suite of standard woodworking power tools. Drill press, bandsaw, table saw, etc., etc. Because there's so much commonality of components, and most of what's sold, it's just gimmicky, featureless nonsense, and they're also pretty much unchanged from what you could buy 100 years ago. When I see vintage 1950s drill presses and see just how unchanged they are to today in 2020, it's absurd to think that, well, that they haven't improved, but also that I should still pay top dollar for something that hasn't improved in 70 years. So that's my interview. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to apply, and I look forward to hearing from you and attempting the FreeCAD developers test. Thank you very much.